During my second year at college studying game design, one of the very first units required from me was to produce a short prototype based around the theory of the hero's journey. This prototype was to be submitted in combination with research, mood boards, and a short story, as well as several other deliverables. The result was a short prototype called Oblivion Orbs, completed on the 31st of the 10th, 2019. This prototype served as a direct follow-on to a short story about a famous family that was traditionally made up of knights. But you, the player, wanted to follow the path of magic. This was the narrative used to introduce the player to the game's main mechanic, magic, or, more specifically, magical orbs known as Oblivion Orbs. Genius, I know. The idea that the player would use magical orbs that would make items appear and disappear within the level. This mechanic was heavily influenced by a tutorial found on YouTube, which I will put a link to in the description. The entire unit, including Oblivion Orbs prototype, was submitted in late December 2019, gaining top marks, I may add. I also felt that this mechanic could have been expanded upon, but as it was not the primary focus of the unit, I left it in my work in progress file to be expanded upon a later date, as I didn't really believe it was good enough to be added to my portfolio at this point. In October 2020, a YouTuber who makes tutorials for the Unreal Engine named Ryan Laley, link in the description, announced that he would be running a game jam under the theme of escape rooms, and I thought my previous prototype Oblivion Orbs could be expanded upon to fit the theme. I reused all the mechanics and puzzles found within Oblivion Orbs, adding a few additional puzzles, different visuals, stripped out the narrative and changed the level layout, and Project Sphere was born. I submitted Project Sphere and came runner-up. Now that the game was a bit more refined, I decided to add it to my portfolio because although it wasn't up to the standard of the rest of my content, I had achieved an award for runner-up, which I thought would look good on my CV with my other 2 awards. And that was that, or so I thought. Recently, I was contacted by a Scott Hamilton on Twitter who informed me that one of his followers had seen my game Project Sphere and that it was a copy of his own project, Disasphere, and that he wanted it removed from any site that it appeared on. To be honest, at this point I didn't even bother to look at his profile or Google his game, as I was pretty confident it wouldn't have been anything like mine. In short, I thought he was a troll. I replied that I wouldn't remove it unless he was the creator of the YouTube video I had actually based my game on, in which case I wouldn't have a problem with that. Scott then replied with an edited video, link in the description, in which he had edited the game, or his game, Disasphere, to make it look like my game, Project Sphere. Bear in mind at this point that Project Sphere is a redesigned version of my original prototype, Oblivion Orbs. Are you still with me? Very good. As you can see, they are very similar, which was pretty shocking. Scott then told me that the materials and mechanics were irrelevant and that his main issue was that I had copied his puzzles and his level layout, the layout of which was nothing alike, having had sections of my game cherry-picked to match up with his in the video that he provided in the link. At this point I decided I would have a look at Scott's account to see to see how this had come about. Upon looking at Twitter, the earliest post I could find in which similar mechanics were showing was in November 2019. A week after I recorded a video of my finished prototype as shown in my recordings timestamp here. My initial reaction was that it was a massive coincidence, as he couldn't have possibly seen my original Oblivion Orbs prototype, as it was never made public beyond being on one of my earliest portfolio websites I used for the college at the time. Or so it appeared. You see, on the 18th of May 2019, I had posted a tweet with a link to an old portfolio that contained a playable CV that I wanted to share, and as I discovered, contained a page with some of the work from the narrative unit, including a video of Oblivion Orbs. Now, I'm not saying he stole my concept, as it was already out there, as shown by the YouTube tutorial, but the following is a video showcasing my puzzles made in Oblivion Orbs in October 2019 and Scott's Disasphere made in January 2020. Which are pretty similar, right? Now, I admit my rehash Project Sphere and Disasphere look very similar, but my puzzles were based on my own previous game, Oblivion Orbs, so how could I have possibly copied him when my original game was made before his? After some investigation on Scott's portfolio, it appears that Scott has presented his project Disasphere as a final year project, which would explain why he was so adamant that I removed mine. Although my response was blunt at this point, as I was annoyed and it was a baseless demand, I replied saying that as a gesture of goodwill, I would be willing to remove Project Sphere if it honestly meant that much to him. The reason being, I didn't want him being caught out plagiarising my work and resulting in him losing his degree or potentially his job within the industry. But still, at this point, could have been a coincidence, although I'll let the evidence speak for itself. His portfolio didn't contain much else, to be honest, and Project Sphere didn't really mean that much to me. It wasn't as good as what I'd already made in my portfolio, and I'd already received a runner-up for it. I was willing to be the bigger man and leave it at that, removing Project Sphere as a gesture of goodwill. After I'd gathered all my evidence to show that I had copied my own game that predates his, I informed Scott that unless he offers me an apology for saying I copied him, I would be forced to post his videos and defend myself. However, I've still not received an apology, almost a full day on, or had any additional contact with him. I'm guessing because he realises he's been rumbled. Unfortunately, he has since made the comparison video public on YouTube and began misleading people within the games industry that I copied him, forcing me to speak out and present my version of events in the form of this amazing video. As already stated, as already showcased, I have acquired evidence such as timestamps on the recordings of my original prototype, 3 months worth of work for the unit to support its creation, as well as waiting on a letter from the college confirming that I submitted the unit/portfolio in December 2019, long before Scott began to upload videos of puzzles on his Twitter account or submitted his project to his university. Now, I know the games industry is full of games that are very similar. That's how most games are made. This is why I wasn't too bothered about removing it from my portfolio. We could have had an agreement that it was an unfortunate accident with him apologising to me and we move on, but the fact that he has not apologised or offered any other evidence that his game came first beyond his edited gameplay video in which he cuts out sections of my game, focusing on 2 or 3 puzzles that are the same as his, because guess why? They were in my original game, Oblivion Orbs. Those that know me know I'm not one for getting involved in drama. I'm pretty laid back in regards to most things. However, I couldn't let Scott potentially blackball me from betraying me to have copied his work in an industry that I'm looking to join one day, especially when he actually has a job based on work that is incredibly similar to mine. I will add an additional video once I've received my letter confirming confirmation letter confirming that my unit and prototype was submitted in December 2019 before Scott ever posted a video on his YouTube. So to summarise, I made Oblivion Orbs in October 2019 and submitted it in December 2019. Scott showcased his early Disasphere mechanic video in November 2019 and uploaded the finished project in January 2020. I then copied my game with a slight redesign in October 2020 so that I could submit it for a game jam. In short, I copied my original game, which I think's okay because it was mine, but Scott also copied my original game, then demands that I take down my redesigned game as I have copied his game. You couldn't make this up, I know. I'm currently a full-time student, a dad of 3 little girls, and I'm just coming out of homeschooling, so to say my time is limited is an understatement. With that being said, I won't be wasting any more energy by discussing this matter any further beyond a simple screenshot of my submission date once my previous college provides it. Anyone thinking of joining the industry, don't share anything on Twitter, because maybe you won't have the evidence to defend yourself like I've had to. That's everything. Have a good evening.